Hello, Whovians, and a very happy New Year's Eve to you all. As today we're going to have a chance to reflect on 2024 events for Doctor Who and kind of reflect on the year, as it's been as of course this year marked the first year of the first proper full year of Ncuti Gatwa in the role of the 15th Doctor. Considering last year we had, well, obviously within the last year we had David Tennant come back for the 60th anniversary, and we had that whole 60th anniversary celebration going on that led to David Tennant and Catherine Tate's return. But then, of course, it was taken over by Ncuti Gatwa and Millie Gibson, who took over the roles for the heading into 2024, which we're now going to have a chance to reflect on some of the merch and all the cool stuff that's happened with Doctor Who in 2024. So if you go on to enjoy this video, make sure to like and subscribe as we reflect on the years, all the stuff that came for Doctor Who fans in 2024. So we start the year off. We're going to obviously start the year off. We did have obviously a reveal came through which announced the Celestial Toymaker was coming to. Well, obviously it was announced during the 60th anniversary. We knew the Celestial Toymaker was fastly approaching. It wasn't going to be due till, so it was around this time we kind of knew about the May release for the Celestial or June release, should I say, for the Celestial Toymaker animation. So it meant we have to wait a few more months until we could enjoy the Celestial Toymaker release through animation form and finally completing another William Hartnell story. But in the meantime, as we were building up to that release, we did get, of course, the very first the first series of Ncuti Gatwa's reign as the 15th Doctor. And I have to say there was quite a few great episodes that came out of that. I know there was a lot of sort of mixed reactions to some of the episodes, but at least there was a general positivity toward Ncuti Gatwa's performance as the Doctor. A lot of people like his performance as the Doctor. Some of the stories that are considered favourites are Boom, the Stephen Moffat episode, the episode that brought him back to Doctor Who, and then we also have obviously the Devil's Core. That was considered a very favourite, considering it featured the Beatles, or partially featured the Beatles, but at least it was meant to be a story about the Beatles, with Maestro Jackson Mooson, the Drag Race woman, taking on the role as Maestro. There was also the opportunity. We also had that whole 73 Yard story that a lot of people are still curious about the whole meaning of that story was, considering we had the whole, Ruby Sunday had to deal with rejections of her foster mother, and basically everyone around her were being scared because of the 73-yard woman that kept following her no matter where she went. But then it turned out to be her. Partially, we believe it turned out to be her in the future. That's what most, I'm sure, are theorizing. We had those type of stories that dealt real world topics, particularly the Dot and Bubble. That was one of those stories that kind of dealt with a real life conversation topic. Even though they didn't properly acknowledge it in the episode, it's basically visible as we got towards the end of the story. You'll have noticed the behavior of the guest star's character, obviously signalizing a real world conversation. And then we also had the return of Sutek, the Destroyer, who made his return in the finale, The Legend of Ruby Sunday and Empires of Death. Great return for the enemy that we haven't seen since Pyramids of Mars. Even though I felt like it was a good finale. I know some people might not agree with that test. I felt it was really good, and we were also still curious about Mrs. Flood, as we saw at the end of the finale with her winter. We're still curious whether she's Mary Poppins or sort of a Mary Poppins style villain potentially. Well, I guess we'll hopefully know next year who she really is. Hopefully, I like to be hopeful we will. But yeah, so of course there was only 8 episodes. It was only on for 8 weeks, but of course there was that controversial decision that a lot of people are looking at as controversial. The fact that BBC iPlayer was releasing the episodes ahead of the TV broadcast, that most of the Doctor Who fans didn't like aspects mainly because of the traditional way of how you watch Doctor Who, because usually I think it's mainly because of the spoiler aspects of the story, because people could easily spread spoilers about the story thanks to it being released on iPlayer early, makes it harder for anybody to remain spoiler-free before the actual episode airs on the telly. So there's that was the concern going into the BBC iPlayer, and it became a bit of a concern throughout the series that the finale was going to get spoiled. Luckily it didn't get spoiled, which is good. So at least there were enough people to at least try to keep it under wraps for many people, which was good. So I'm glad they did that. But yes, so that is that was of course the finale of Doctor Who that happened on. Well, of course, that was the sort of theme of the release schedule for Doctor Who Season 1, with obviously its DVD release coming out in August. But of course, also around this time was when we also found out about the return of the Doctor Who proms for 2024. That happened in July, where Catherine Tate had the honour of hosting this music celebration. I think a lot of people were a bit surprised by this happening this year, considering a lot of people were, I think because it wasn't the 60th anniversary, because I think a lot of people were expecting this to be in the 60th anniversary a year of Doctor Who, but because it happened the year after, I think there was a lot of surprise reaction to it, because I think a lot were expecting this to happen the year before, considering it was an actual anniversary for Doctor Who, not the year after. Nevertheless, they did it anyway, and we also got the TV broadcast as one of our Christmas treats for Doctor Who this year, which turned out very well. Then, but of course, it was also around this time that we also found out Ncuti Gatwa got his own waxworks in London through Madame Tussauds. That turned out to be, I would imagine, a lot of people had visited that over the course of the summer. But it was around this time we also got a little sneak peek of Joy to the World, even though they didn't officially name it Joy to the World, even though Stephen Moffat did basically leak out the name in an interview back in April, around the time, or back in May, during the release of his story Boom. He kind of referred to that he was writing this year's Christmas special that's called Joy to the World. So it was quite clear that we knew what the episode name was going to be because of Stephen Moffat, but the BBC were being very secretive for half of the year about the name. But despite the fact that we did get our first sort of pre-credit scene of the Christmas special during San Diego Comic Con in July, which I'm sure the half of the Whovians saw, I would imagine a lot of people were trying to remain spoiler-free with the story. That's understandable. The next piece of Doctor Who news that came out was a bit concerning news, and it's still concerning to this day, the fact that there's been this sort of ongoing conversation between Disney and the BBC, where Disney are refusing, or I guess the BBC have apparently recommissioned Doctor Who yet, because of Disney kind of, I guess in a way, kind of being very secretive about how they feel about the show, which is really, really bizarre for Disney, considering Disney used to be, we all know Disney likes to be very open about how they feel about programs, but yet for this instance, they're very secretive about how they feel about the series carrying on after series 2, after the second series, or series 14 to 15, etc. So they've been very, very secretive about how they feel about the series going forward on Disney Plus. So we have really no official statement from them that kind of illustrates, okay, this is how they feel. So a lot of us were are still clueless to this day whether, we keep getting these mixed reactions of Russell T Davis saying the series, he's not sure if the series is going to when he's going to start working on the next series. And then we have Ncuti Gatwa, who came on the Graham Norton show, telling people that the filming is going to happen during 2025, even though that whole conversation got edited out during the TV broadcasts of the Graham Norton show, so to make it sound like he never said it, even though the audience who were there at the time have said otherwise, that he did say this. So it's a bit of a mess in a way. So I'm hoping as we enter 2025, hopefully as we enter the new year, we'll get some clarity as to where we stand about Ncuti Gatwa's future for Doctor Who, and more importantly, what awaits us following next year's series. Hopefully we'll get some clarity as to what's going on there regarding the future of Doctor Who on Disney Plus, and whether or not they're going to have to rely on a new streaming partner. We'll have to wait and see, because it's a bit of a mystery at this time until official statements come out, which hopefully won't be too long. Now, despite that, we also got the news about the new companion as well, Veneli Seven, who appeared briefly in Boom. She's been appearing on set throughout the year, filming scenes for the next series of Doctor Who, which we know she's going to be basically the new companion for Ncuti's 15th Doctor as we enter 2025. So we'll have episodes involving her to look forward to during the year. We've heard bits and bobs from her, but I'm sure there'll be plenty more interviews to come as the new series approaches. So we're going to be hopefully hearing a lot more from her in 2025 about her time as the new companion for Doctor Who. Despite all the concerns about the future of Ncuti Gatwa and Doctor Who, and well, in regards to his sort of take on Doctor Who, etc., we did get, however, some more Doctor Who. Obviously, we had a lot more merchandise in Doctor Who the Collection releases. Obviously, some more books are being announced. Obviously, we had the Doctor Who ad made its arrival for 2025 with the first time we saw a proper cover featuring the 15th Doctor and Ruby as the cover stars of this year's annual official calendars. And there's also the classic calendar that features all the faces of the Doctor in a separate calendar release alongside the regular one that was rolling out in time for the to build up to 2025. As well as that, despite all that, we did get, of course, some news regarding. Well, we did get some pretty cool news regarding in regards to Joy to the World. We definitely got quite a bit of news regarding it heading into Children in Need, where we had another look at this year's Christmas special. Finally, BBC confirming the name of the episode, Joy to the World, that was planned for Christmas Day 2025, and of course it obviously aired on this past Christmas Day just a few days ago and became obviously a great treat. But as well as that, we also had the confirmation of a very special thing during the actual Doctor Who Day, which happened on a Saturday this year. We had the confirmation of a Doctor Who another colorization of a black and white story, which is Patrick Troughton's farewell story. The War Games got an official color release in time for Christmas that had its own transmission, which was also aired last week on the 23rd of December. They aired the colorization of the War Games in a 90-minute broadcast with some recovered footage and a never-before-seen regeneration sequence between the second Doctor, Patrick Troughton, and of course the third, Jon Pertwee. It was a very special moment for people to see this never-before-seen regeneration that will now go down in history as part of the history books of Doctor Who. And then on top of that, we also had the confirmation of Doctor Who at the Proms 2024 getting an official airing on BBC Two that also happened this past Christmas Eve. Doctor Who fans had the chance to see the Doctor Who Proms on the telly as part of a broadcast, as part of BBC Two's Christmas Eve content. And of course, we also had the new Doctor Who Unleashed Christmas special that also came alongside Joy to the World this past Christmas Day. Obviously a great treat for Doctor Who fans. But of course, it was also just not recently, we also had news about an upcoming animation for Doctor Who that we're going to be able to look forward to in March, which is, of course, the release Doctor Who: The Savages, a William Hartnell 1966 story, and also the final episode to feature Peter Pearce, former Blue Peter presenter, as Stephen Taylor, who I happen to have met in the 50th anniversary celebrations, playing Stephen Taylor in his final scripted story as Stephen Taylor during The Savages. And we'll finally get to see an animation release of that story in 2025. In March, they finally released that story, which is going to be a treat. William Hartnell fans who finally can see another of his classic stories be resurrected. But also another surprising factor was that for the first time since the New Who, we have not seen any new classics, any new Doctor Who soundtracks this year, because, of course, last year we saw the classic Doctor Who soundtrack releases of The Revenge of the Cybermen, The Time of the Rani, but we have not seen any New Who releases for the soundtrack releases. So we haven't had any 60th anniversary soundtracks, we haven't had any soundtrack releases for Ncuti Gatwa's debut year as the Doctor, including the Church on Ruby Road. There hasn't been any new soundtrack releases for Doctor Who this year, which was a bit of a first for Doctor Who, considering there has been pretty much been at least one new soundtrack release each year, but this year there's been barely anything. So this is the first time no new soundtracks got a release in 2024. So I would imagine this is now going to lead into a 2025 release instead, should they finally get round to doing them next year. But as you can see, there was obviously quite a bit of merch, quite a lot of, and of course, pre-orders for the Joy to the World DVD and Blu-ray also have gone out, and they'll be ready for early next year. And of course, let's not forget there was also another feature for a former Doctor Who star, Patrick Troughton, as BBC4 viewers gave them the opportunity to relive Box of Delights, a classic Christmas drama that Patrick Troughton was featured in the 80s, which was a great treat for any Patrick Troughton fans within the world of Doctor Who wanted to see him in a different environment than his role as the Doctor. But apart from all that, I mean, there is not really much else to say for 2024 for Doctor Who. I mean, we're obviously we're kind of all wait, and of course there has also been that sort of tease by Moffat about him possibly making the Joy to the World his last script, even though just recently he has turned around saying that it wasn't necessarily true that he was going to leave. He's probably going to do more at some point down the road. He just doesn't know when. So at least that gives us hope we might see more from Moffat in the future. But in terms of what we can look forward to in 2025, what is there to look forward to? Of course, we've got a new series of Doctor Who to look forward to. Hopefully, we'll be here by the time we get to Easter. We'll have the Savages to look forward to, the animation of the Savages, and hopefully some more animations, classic Who animations will be coming. I would imagine we should hopefully get a DVD Blu-ray release of the War Games in colour. Considering we got one for the Daleks, it would make sense to have the War Games in colour come to DVD and Blu-ray in the start of the year. And then, of course, we'll have DVD Blu-ray releases for Doctor Who Series 2 for next year's series with Shooting Atlas second series. Hopefully it gets a DVD Blu-ray, and hopefully a DVD Blu-ray release for the War Between the Land and the Sea, the first official Doctor Who spin-off since Torchwood and Sarah Jane and Class. So we'll hopefully get our first original spin-off for Doctor Who in a very long time to look forward to during 2025. So that's going to be definitely a treat to look forward to, involving the Sea Devils. And then apart from that, I mean, we're going to also find out what the future holds for Ncuti Gatwa in regards to whether he's going to stick around as the 15th Doctor after next year, or whether this will be whether we're going to be building up to his last. We don't know. No one really knows until BBC recommissions this next series, and the future awaits what the future holds for Ncuti and his time in Doctor Who. Hopefully, we'll find out next year where things lie for the show. But apart from that, really, I hope you've enjoyed your Christmas holidays, and I hope whatever you're doing on New Year's Eve, you have a great New Year's Eve. And we will be back on New Year's Day with my review of the War Games in colour, which I'm sure you're going to enjoy. So, very happy New Year. To a very early Happy New Year to you all, and we will see you all in 2025. And thank you for watching the Whoniverse in 2024. Happy New Year, everybody.